All right, this is Math 1, Unit 1, Lesson 2, some homework help on solving multi-step equations, where we're going to solve each equation here and check our answers. Let's take a look at the first one. Building off of yesterday, first thing you want to do is kind of combine some like terms. Here I have variables g and g. So I can rewrite this to begin with as 20 plus 2g, because 1g plus 1g is 2g, equals 14. I can then move this 20 to the other side by subtracting 20 from both sides. So I'll do that as such, which gives me now a 2g equals 14 minus 20 is a negative 6. To get the g by itself, I'll divide both sides by 2. And moving over here, g then now equals negative 6 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and a negative divided by positive is still a negative, so I get g equals negative 3. Let's look at number 4. Again, I'm going to begin with combining like terms, so here I have a negative 4t and a positive 1t. So negative 4 and a positive 1 make for a negative 3t plus 10 equals negative 11. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. What I do to one side, I do to the other, so it's balanced there, which leaves me with a negative 3t, just bringing that down, equal to negative 11, adding another negative 10, a negative plus a negative. I can keep the signs are the same. I find the sum, which is 21, and I keep the sign the same. The signs are the same, we find the sum and keep the sign the same. Now I want to get the t by itself, so I'll divide both sides by a negative 3. Divide by a negative 3, and then moving this way. So negative 3 divided by negative 3 is just a 1, so t will equal 21 divided by 3 is 7, and a negative divided by negative is a positive, so I'll just leave it as t equals 7. Number 5. I have an 8p and a negative 3p, so again I want to combine like terms, so this becomes 8 equals, and I have 8 minus 3 is 5p, and I still have a 13. I want to get the p by itself, so I subtract 13 from both sides. 8 minus 13 is a negative 5, and that will equal 5p. I'll divide both sides by 5, and that cancels out to a 1, or reduces to a 1, which leaves me with negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1, and that equals p. There's number 5 for you. Then you have a couple word problems. Number 7 and 8 are some word problems. Just some good ones here where you're going to want to read through it and look at the information they give you to create some sort of equation that's going to be solvable, okay, that you want to solve to. It's probably going to look like one of these things up here. You're going to have a variable of some sort and a couple numbers that multiply with that in order to get a total of some sort. I'll look at number 8 with you real quick. It says 3 times a number plus 12 minus 5 times the same number, I got it there, is, and I have 22. What is the number? Alright, so a couple things here, and I've just kind of made some groups around mine. First I have 3 times a number. That would be written as 3 times a number would be 3, let's call it n, 3n. Then I have plus, so let's go with the plus. 12 minus 5 times the same number. So it looks like 12 minus 5 times the same number n. Now I'm going to add this part to that part. So that's what that looks like there. I don't have anything that kind of says do it first, so I don't have to put it in with a parentheses or anything. I can leave it just like that. If I chose to, I could do that, but it won't change anything. Now the word is tells me that it's going to be equal to, and then 22. So that's the setup for that one there. I have the part 3 times the number plus 12 minus 5 times the same number equals 22. Now I'm going to combine my like terms, so 5n and 3n, negative 5 and positive 3, is going to be equal to a negative 2n plus 12 equals 22. I'll subtract 12 from both sides, and that's going to mean that I still have the negative 2n equal to 22 minus 12 is 10. Divide both sides by negative 2. And n is going to be equal to 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So that's my number. It's a little bit of a process there, but it's a good process, and you can do number 7 doing the same type of thing. Let's look at number 10. We're going to solve each equation and check our answer. So first I'm going to use distributive property to make this 5 times 5 is 25, I'm going to write off the side actually, is 25t, and then 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, and that's going to equal negative 35. Okay, now let's add 10 to both sides. So now that I have 25t equal to negative 35 plus 10 is negative 25. I'll divide both sides by 25 in order to get the t by itself. And t is going to be equal to negative 25 divided by 25 is 1, but it's a negative because the negative divided by positive is a negative. Alright, looking at number 11, same idea. We have negative 2 times a becomes negative 2a. Negative 2 times 6 is a negative 12 equals negative 22. So that's our setup there for using distributive property, first of all, for number 11, right? Now let's combine some terms. Nothing to combine here, so we're going to move things around. I'm going to add 12 to both sides. That makes that go away. So now I have negative 2a equals negative 22 plus a positive 12. When the signs are different, I find the difference and keep the one with a greater absolute value. I call it keep the bigger sign. So we're going to keep a negative sign here for our answer, but the difference would be 22 minus 12, which is 10. Now divide both sides by negative 2, divide by negative 2, and a is going to equal, because that becomes 1, 10 divided by 2 is 5, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so I just leave it as a equals 5. And the last problem on this side of the page, we have a negative 1 in front of there, don't forget. So let's distribute that throughout the whole thing. This can be rewritten as negative 5z minus 12. Basically, I'm just changing the signs inside the parentheses, equals 18. I will add 12 to both sides. That cancels. So negative 5z equals 18 plus 12 is 30. Divide both sides by 5. By negative 5, sorry. And z equals 30 divided by 5 is 6, but a positive divided by negative is a negative, so z equals negative 6. Let's look at a couple more on the back side before we call it a day. Alright, looking first of all at number 16 here, we have some fractions, and we want to basically solve for m. It says choose the method you prefer and check your answer, which means there's probably a couple different ways of doing this here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say, well, let's subtract 1/3 from both sides. Okay? Same denominator, so 2/3 minus 1/3. 2 minus 1 is 1. So I could basically rewrite this now as m over 3 equals 1/3. Okay? Good with that so far? Now, what I want to do is get rid of this m divided by 3. So, because this is essentially m divided by 3, I'm going to choose to multiply both sides by 3. So 3 times m over 3, this reduces to 1, leaving me with just the m. On this side, I end up with 1 times 3 is 3 over 3, which is also simply 1. So the answer is 1. Now if I was to look back at what I started with, I know I have to get to 2/3. The denominator is going to stay the same all the way through. So something plus 1 has to equal 2. Well, last time I checked, 1 plus 1 equals 2. So I did a whole lot of math, but I probably could have just looked and noticed it's just going to be 1. On number 17, okay, we want to get to a 4/5 here. Is there a kind of shortcut way of looking at that? If I want to get to 4/5, what do I have to do with the r to make, when I take away 1/5 to get to 4/5? Well, it probably means I need to be at a 5/5, but let's just take a look. So I'm going to add 1/5 to both sides to get the r by itself. Add 1/5, add 1/5. Well, 4 plus 1 is 5, so this leaves me with r, 5r equals 5 over 5, which is 1. So I'll rewrite that as 5r equals 1. So I want to get the r by itself, so I divide both sides by 5, which leaves me with r equals 1/5. And that's my solution for that one. Number 20, we have some decimals now. So let's work on this here. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 0.36 from both sides. So I'm going to subtract 0.36 from here. To get that there, we kind of borrow. And so we have 12 minus 6 is 6. 6 minus 3 is 3. Bring down my decimal. And I still have a 24 right there. And that's going to equal 6z. Divide both sides by 6. So I'm left with z equals, well, let's see. 6 goes into 24. There's a little shortcut way of doing this, right? 6 goes into 24 4 times. And then 6 goes into 3 0 times. And it goes into 36, a total of 6 times. So I end up with z equals 4.06. I could double check that on my calculator. I could do 24.36 divided by 6. And I get 4.06. So I'm okay there. Alright, you have some other ones here coming up where you describe steps you would do and how you would solve that there. You also have some ones further down, maybe a little more complicated, but I'm going to let you work on those ones here where you're going to have to solve each equation using what we did before with fractions and moving things around and then round to the nearest hundredth. A little more complicated, but worth the effort. So good luck with those and hope you have a great day.